Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the remote. We'll talk just a couple basic features. Basically, your on-off switch right here. I mean, self-explanatory. In this situation, you're going to notice that you actually have two different antennas, which is the integrated one. And then you also, right now, to control your little Nano, you have this Backpiece, which is a replaceable module. If later on, if you want to change to something else, this is something that can be taken out and replaced, because there's different frequencies and different manufacturers. So this one here, I believe, is a DSM-2, while this is, I believe this uses the, I think up to the FR Sky 16 channel. I forget what it is called. I'm not really 100% fluent in this one because I use Futivar stuff more often. The basic functionality, you got your charge port right here. There's also a charge indication light, so when it's fully charged, this will turn green. So your charge cable, totally exciting here. The other thing is when this is powered up on anything that has broadcasting, you need to make sure, actually broadcasting frequencies, the antenna always needs to be attached. Some devices have built-in protection in case if the antenna is not attached, but a lot of them do not. If you do not have the antenna attached, it is possible to burn out the actual equipment, and then you'll just be buying a new one and you won't be terribly happy with it. So we're going to turn this on here.
Welcome to OpenTX.
So by default, I have it set to your Blade Nano. We can hit page. I'm sorry, it would be menu. You see I have set up also a blackout, so you can hit the up and down. If you want to select the different one, you have to hold the button and hit select model. So now at this point, it's switched over to this frequency. You notice that this is turned off. I'm gonna go back and turn back on your blade. So now this one here beep, and see now it's blinking. So we've turned back on that one right there. The basic controls, which I've set up for both models for you, so later on whenever you decide you want to do it, this is going to be your flight mode right here. When it's up at the top, and in this particular model, for the little Nano, it's going to be auto leveling, so which means that the copter, whenever you let go of the sticks, is always going to go back to flat. So instead of staying at whatever mode, the very bottom mode for this one is going to be rate. So which means as you change the actual mode, so if you want to tilt forward, you just touch the stick and it'll tilt it, but when it goes back center, it'll stay wherever you left it. So you actually have to tell it, you have to tilt it back in order to tell it to come back. The middle switch doesn't really do anything on this particular model, so you can just pretty much ignore it. But on the blackout, it's set up the same way, except this one's like a hybrid in between. It's called Ratitude mode usually, because we use CC3D pretty often. There's also the NASA with Clean Flight too, which you can also load on the CC3D as well. I've played with it. I kind of like the CC3D software. It's a little more user-friendly. And in the recent updates, they really have added tons of cool features. So anyways, we'll talk about the different sticks here. This one right here is going to be your throttle, or more or less when you go up and down is going to be your vertical. But take into account, we call it the throttle because also as you tilt, it's going to keep you up but also make you go faster forward. So as you're tilted and you're going, it's going right there. So you have that kind of double-edged sword situation going on there. Then your left and right is going to be your yaw, which is basically how this pivots specifically in that direction. Then over here is going to be your left, right, or what is your roll and pitch basically. Pitch is going to be your front and back, so as you tilt, you'll go forward or back. And as I said, when you're flying in altitude, which is auto level, you have to hold it and it will go forward. It's basically hold to go forward, but when you're in rate mode, you just touch it and let it go back. It'll tilt and continue going forward. So just consider this more like a hold mode, I guess is the easy way to explain it without physically getting too much into some of the details. And this is going to be your side to side, so it does the same thing except it tilts you one way or the other from left to right. So just as I said, front of the plane where the camera, left and right. Outside that, the other things are, these are called your trim buttons. So if you get this and for some reason you notice that when it's just hovering, it's drifting one way or the other, you can use these. You won't use really the throttle portion of it, but if you notice that it's drifting, turning this way on its own, like it has a constant drift, then you can use this to counteract whatever the drift is. And the same thing goes if you notice that it keeps wanting to linger this way or forward or back, you can do, you know, forward and back and left and right to adjust those right there. The only other thing to really talk about specifically, without getting into a lot of the details that are specifically in the programming, which that could be a whole nother thing, is when the antennas, generally the antennas have what are called dead spots. Specifically, like this particular style of antenna has like a dead spot directly above it. Actually, most antennas will have a dead spot in front of it, unless you get like a directional. Then the directionals will have like, you know, 180-degree, you know, dead spots around it. So generally, the rule of thumb is if you want to try to fly with this being kind of right there and not try to get anything directly above it. That's the cool thing, is whenever you are doing more integrated stuff, you can pivot this. A lot of people fly sideways or like this, or if you have a tendency to hold it, you can, you know, pivot the antenna however you want. But with, you know, flying remotely close to inside your house and stuff like that, really, to be honest with you, it's not going to be too terribly important to pay attention to antenna orientation, at least not right now. Later on, when you're flying miles out like I've done, you'll be really concerned about what direction the antennas are facing. So that does it for this portion of it. We'll talk a little bit about the goggles and then the plane, and particularly the flight and how it works here in just a moment.